Hi everyone, Yasas to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. If you love galettes, and I've made so many on this channel, you're gonna absolutely love this one. It's a halloumi, tomato, and pesto galette puff pastry is what we're using as the crust, so it can be nice and flaky and light and also easy. And then we're gonna top it with pesto and fresh tomatoes, bell peppers, and halloumi. So simple to make, but it packs so much flavor. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to begin with one large sheet of puff pastry. I like to buy these at the restaurant supply shop because they come in these big sizes and they're just easy to work with. If you can't find these, you can use the regular puff pastry that's sold in regular grocery stores, and they come 2 per pack. You could either make 2 tarts or combine them to make this one big one. Just lightly flour your work surface and roll the puff pastry out to about 16 inches in diameter. So this is a rectangle. It can't be turned into a circle, but as long as there's 16 inches in there somewhere, it's gonna work. It doesn't have to be precise. You can make it a little bit smaller too, so don't worry about it. Then once that's done, I'll transfer it to a baking tray that's lined with parchment paper, and I'm just gonna dock it, which just means I'm gonna pierce the pastry with a fork, and that's going to keep it from bubbling up when it's baking in the oven, because puff pastry has a lot of air in it and it's just nice and light and fluffy, and it just tends to puff up. You want that bottom layer to stay kind of flat. Next, I have some pesto here. You can go with a half a cup, but I like to add lots of pesto, so I'm going to add a full cup of already made pesto to this. Spread it all over the bottom. If you don't like pesto, you could use a marinara sauce, like a pizza sauce, or a harissa if it's not too spicy. That goes really well with the halloumi cheese too. Speaking of which, now we're going to slice up the halloumi and the tomatoes. I have 1 pound of halloumi cheese. Both of these packs of halloumi cheese equal a pound. So just slice it into thin slices. It doesn't have to be perfect. Set it aside and then slice up your tomatoes. You could use a variety of tomatoes for this, or just grape tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. They will all work. So I have these large tomatoes here, and I also have some grape tomatoes. I'll slice them both and set them aside. And then I love to add some bell pepper to this as well. So I have a yellow bell pepper, but any color will do. Just slice that up and set it aside. I'll just start with a layer of halloumi cheese slices over the pesto. Then I'll go with the tomatoes and I'll add some more halloumi. You can do this in a really rustic style. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then I'll find space for the bell peppers. I also like to brush everything with some olive oil, season with a little bit of salt and some crushed oregano. And now it's time to just pinch the edges together to create a rustic border. I'm going to just brush some more olive oil onto the puff pastry to make it nice and golden. Sprinkle it with some oregano, and it's ready for the oven. The oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. This is going to bake in the oven for 45 minutes. I'll just keep it on the center rack for the first 30 minutes, and the remaining 10 to 15, I'll move it to the top rack and let it bake until it's nice and golden. Take it out of the oven and let it sit for a little bit before you take it off of its tray and put it on a serving platter. I love to serve this on wooden cutting boards because it's just really rustic and it also fits. It's usually hard for me to find a platter this big. So as soon as it comes out of the oven, it's going to look like a pizza, but I guess it's probably better because puff pastry is the best thing ever. So let it sit for about 5-10 minutes. You don't want it to sit too long because the halloumi cheese, if you've never had it, it's a Cypriot cheese, and it looks like mozzarella, but it's a little bit harder. It almost has a rubbery texture, but what's great about it is you can grill it, you could fry it. When you cook this cheese or when you bake it, whichever which way, it stays sort of crispy on the outside, or it'll get roasted and will get toasted on the outside, but the inside gets nice and soft, yet it doesn't melt. So that's the difference. It tastes delicious. If you've never tried it, you should try it. It's pretty mild compared to other Greek and Cypriot cheeses, and it pairs beautifully with the pesto. The fresh tomatoes and bell peppers are perfect with this too. Time for the taste test. Oh my God. This has to be one of my favorites. The halloumi cheese is perfect in this. I love the pesto. The puff pastry is flaky. It's perfectly cooked. The bottom is not at all soggy because we started it off baking it on the middle rack, and I always like to keep a ceramic tile in my oven. It's like a baking stone, and it helps regulate the temperature a little bit better. So the bottoms of pies and things like that, they bake evenly. And then I just moved it to the top. I forgot to record that part. I just moved it to the top rack of my oven, so the top of the veggies get a little bit of caramelization on them, and the crust gets more color. This is so good and it's so simple to make. You could put it together in like 15 minutes and the rest of the work gets done in the oven. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. If you do it with different variations, let me know how you're making it in the comments section down below. Print this recipe out on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.